And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Hope everybody's off to a fabulous start this morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
Doing okay. I guess last night was a bad game, so allowed for a little more sleep. The Monday Night Football front. Cowboys are trash.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, and Houston, I know we're going to talk about stadium takeovers today on the program.
We are.
But Houston Texans fans,
how about it?
Took up a big chunk of Jerry's sun-splashed playland. So that was interesting.
I mean, I guess that's the good news about the night game is you don't have the sun creeping through the windows there and getting in everybody's face. I guess.
You did have some panel, like the wind knocked it off, so they had to close the roof last night. They got all kinds of issues with that thing.
What the heck's going on down there?
I don't know. They need a new roof. I mean, Jerry, you paying the mortgage? Like, what's going on here?
Jerry still firing radio hosts, or is he gotten over that yet?
Someone didn't actually.
I don't think he actually got fired, but he just threatened it.
Yeah,
I'll get somebody in here that'll ask the right questions. Thanks, Jerry.
Tough scene for Jerry. It's not going well, and they may as well start playing Trey Lance to me, right?
Yeah,
I mean, all due respect to Cooper Rush,
might as well see what you got.
He's not the worst backup. He's top 25.
Sure, yeah,
he's top 25.
He's no Mason Rudolph, but yeah,
that's right. He's not top 10 like Mason Rudolph,
no doubt. Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Good. Some things never change, and some things never change with Alexander Ovechkin. I watched him play the Utah Hockey Club last night. I think he scored on his 178th goalie all-time of his playing career, which I think ties the record. So,
Who had that record, do you know?
That's a good question. I saw that he broke it. Was it? I think it's Yager.
I'm
pretty sure it is Yager.
That would make sense. 178 different goalies, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep. At 39 years old.
A lot.
He got hurt too, didn't he?
He got hurt last night. He got kneed by Jack McBain, and Tom Wilson had his way with him. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, hopefully he's all right.
Yeah.
Need him to make sure that he can at least has a chance to break the goal record.
29 more goals.
So we'll see how that goes. We got a lot to get into on the program today. We'll be joined by Adam Sparks at 7:30. Get his reaction to Tennessee's loss to Georgia and what that means for the college football playoff picture. Scott Hamilton will join us at 8 o'clock. Really cool event taking place this weekend at Bridgestone Arena that Scott Hamilton's going to tell us a little bit about. So looking forward to that coming up at 8 o'clock. A lot of thoughts to get to on the Titans today as well. We'll take yours on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, I was thinking about this last night, because we're gonna discuss Levis, his performance the last couple of weeks, a lot throughout the week, leading into the Texans game coming up this weekend. And it just got me thinking, I think clearly there has been progress in the last two games. You can make the argument, although I don't know that I agree with it, but you can make the argument that Sunday was as good as he's looked in the NFL. Certainly is as good as he's looked this season. I don't know that that's arguable, but is as good as he's looked in the NFL. Now, I will say it's hard to look a whole lot better than he looked against Atlanta in his first game, just because, the numbers were outrageous and he was throwing touchdowns all over the place. A much better defense that he played on Sunday against Minnesota than that Atlanta Falcons defense happened to be at that time, so you have to keep that in mind. But he played well. He threw the ball well. He delivered the ball accurately. He had a 98-yard touchdown down the field. He had another touchdown to Calvin Ridley taking off the board. There's a lot that goes into it that looked really, really good for Will Levis. And at the end of the day, the Titans scored 13 points on offense. And it still just makes me throw my hands up and say, what does it all mean? Like, what does it all mean in terms of him, where this coaching staff is, where the offensive part of this is, with their game plan, their personnel, all of it? It's just mind-boggling to me the more I think about it, that he can play as well as I think we all would agree that he did on Sunday, and they have so little to show for it on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's fair, for sure. That's the thing. I mean, he had some really good moments, and obviously one of them directly leading to a touchdown as my computer makes noise, and I'll mute it now. But there were still plenty of dead possessions, right? I mean, it's
right,
still
exactly.
So yeah, it's I mean, his numbers are great. Their numbers are not, and so some of that is on him. Again, there was a chance to, get NWI wide open, and there had to have been some kind of a coverage issue with the Vikings. I mean, I don't think that was just like a hole in their zone. Like, he was alone on one side of the field and Levis didn't see him, and that could have been a big play. I'm sure, when he looked at the film of it, he, put his head in his hands. But, there's also 5 sacks and there's no running game. And so it's the reality of the Tennessee Titans that, again, basically, like, I guess you can have a good QB game and another just terrible pedestrian non-scoring offensive game as a team.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it was. Just for him specifically, though, like, for those who thought that he was the problem earlier this year, there were a couple of games where maybe he was, right? The Chicago game,
Yeah, I think so.
He was the problem. The Jets game, rolling the ball, doing the old bowling roll on the ground, along with special teams. He was the problem. And you can, special teams in the Bears game too. Special teams pretty much every game.
Yeah, that's a nice
You can
companion.
just go ahead and throw that in there with what it's
special
been.
teams is at least Robin to the Batman.
But I think a game like Sunday, while it was really encouraging on his front, I think it also shows you how far away they are just in terms of being one of those teams that's competitive, right? Like, he plays that well on Sunday. And like you said, there's no running game to speak of. They end up scoring 13 points total. And I know that there were some officiating blunders in that game that we talked a lot about yesterday. So all that factors into it. But I just think it's a very different situation. But for those who just think all you need in the NFL is great quarterback play and that's all it takes, I think we're learning that it's a little bit more complicated than that. Like, I'm not trying to make this comparison. I'm just saying, look at Joe Burrow. Look at the numbers that Joe Burrow has put up this year. Look at the numbers that Joe Burrow put up the other night in the game against LA. The dude is having an unbelievable year. I think he's thrown like 27 touchdowns and 4 picks. Like, he's unreal, the numbers that he's put up. And yet they're 4-7. It's not because Joe Burrow's not playing well enough. It's not because Jamar Chase isn't playing well enough. They're 4-7. He's thrown 27 touchdowns, 4 picks, and is already over 3,000 yards. Like, he's got MVP level numbers, and they're not going to make the playoffs. So it kind of shows you that while quarterback is the most important thing, it's still not the only thing in the NFL. And I think Sunday's game, the Levis conversation aside, maybe hopefully for them, this is what he continues to be as they move forward here. But I still think it does show you just how far away they are from being competitive with some of the roster holes that we've talked a lot about.
Yeah. I do think, I guess that how far away they are, if you had play like that, but I think better too. And you still want better quarterback play. It's not like it was peak quarterback play, but if you could advance on that quarterback play, and then how many people on the offensive line do you need to make it fine, to make it decent, solid? And if you had one more outside weapon. So if you had one more outside weapon, whatever it takes to make obviously a right tackle, is it more than that? That's a question. Like, if they actually had a competent right tackle with everything else they have with Cushenberry back, is that okay? Is that a good line?
Well, that's the other thing that we can't answer right now is, when is Cushenberry going to be back?
Yeah. So
it's hard to know.
But, so let's say that is true. Let's say they can cobble it together, like Brunskill, and then at some point Cushenberry. Okay, so they fix right tackle with, again, just a serviceable, decent tackle, and they get another outside weapon. Is that, if Levis keeps advancing on that, what is that? I mean, that might be
It's certainly much better. How good?
It's not a complete wholesale change.
Right.
I mean, kind of, it's like, do they have to, I think they're okay. I think Latham is good for sure. He had another, again, all the PFF. He's a PFF hero.
Yeah.
But he had, to me, looks good over there. I mean, he makes a mistake here and there, but he's good. Skoronski, he's gonna be there. He's okay. He makes some big mistakes too at times, and then he'll blow somebody up. That's just like when you have that. It's like they've had that at left tackle last 2 years, and now it's at right tackle. When you have that, because that's the thing. Like last year, right tackle wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, Chris Hubbard was okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
So if you had okay tackle there, what does that mean? But when you have such a huge issue where you're like they were sitting there with that Van Ginkel guy, and they're doubling him, tight end and Petit Frere, and he's still just, that's fine. I'll just sack your quarterback.
Yeah.
Here, I'll rip through the tight end, and then, hey, Nick, you just lay on the ground and roll around, and I'll hit your quarterback. So the point being, like, are they that far away from at least being like a respectable offense? And then I go back to quarterback play. But to your point, absolutely. Look around the league. I mean, Lamar Jackson's been great all along, but like they've had ups and downs. Now they give him Derrick Henry, and they had better receivers. And they're, the Steelers aren't like totally leaning on Russell Wilson, right?
No.
Like he's got a great defense and
didn't score a touchdown on Sunday.
Yeah. And on through the league. Josh Allen. I mean, last year, Sean McDermott was about to get fired. So they have a new OC now, which obviously makes a difference. Joe Brady, might a little bit had something to do with Joe Burrow's success. Joe Brady's going to be a head coach. They actually fixed their receivers better than I think a lot of people realize. And boom, it's not. It's so much more than the quarterback.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. How far away are the Titans from being one of these teams that we consider competitive? And what did you make of Will Levis, his performance on Sunday? How does that factor into it for the Titans moving forward? More of your thoughts to get to on that. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Bavarian Beer House, Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, a place full of fun, food, music, and most importantly, beer. Enjoy traditional German beer, brats, giant pretzels, and more in their expansive beer hall and garden. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, which as always are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We're going to get into a little bit of a Vikings fan takeover on Sunday at Nissan Stadium, and that conversation coming up here in just a few minutes. Right now, taking your thoughts on the Titans, Will Levis, the offense in general. How far away is it from being competitive? Now, some people have brought up play calling. I don't know about you, Joe. I'm sure we can go through and find some instances where there's been some questionable play calling, but for the most part, I don't know that I've walked away from these games and thought to myself, well, I think the Titans offense was probably right on the verge, but it was the play calling that was holding them back. For the most part, I don't think the play calling has been much of an issue, which, look, was no guarantee heading into this. Like, Brian Callahan had never done that before. He'd never been the primary play caller in the National Football League before. So I think I don't know that I'm necessarily willing to anoint him as like some guru great play caller yet either. I just don't think it's been some massive issue. I think most of the issues that we've seen on the offensive side of the ball for the Titans have been personnel related to this point, have not necessarily been scheme and or play call related to this point.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I get the criticism of, I think maybe the most popular criticism I've heard is, he thinks he has Burrow. He doesn't. He has this kid who throws an incredible deep ball. Why is he trying to run the Cincinnati offense? First of all, I don't think that's what he's doing, but also, you have to be able to protect. Yep. And, like if I think they want to take shots, I think we've seen that from week one. Some weeks that they might have 3 or 4 more shots, but Levis is on the ground before he throws the ball. And that's the hard part about judging play calling. Yeah, I can't sit here and say, man, this guy is a wizard. Right. And it's just, but when the plays don't work a lot of times, you could blame the play calling if you want. I mean, I'll go back and I'll continue to some extent defend Todd Downing when you get to the point where you are struggling to block or you have issues somewhere and you're losing matchups, the play caller looks a lot dumber all of a sudden.
Yep.
And again, like Arthur Smith, we're seeing again with the Steelers. He's very good OC, right? I mean, obviously, I think he's a perfect match for Tomlin and what they want to do and all that stuff. But it's also people in Atlanta thought he was an idiot.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean, it's the same guy throughout his entire career. So was he really smart here, then really dumb in Atlanta, and now he's really smart again? Or are there some things that these coaches can't control, which is some of their players getting their butts kicked by players on other teams?
It was interesting yesterday. It's not the first time that he's talked about it, but it's the first time I can remember him putting it quite like this. Callahan was talking about right tackle and basically said, to state the obvious, nothing's been good enough there. And then said, quote, "I've not been a part of something that's been so hard to settle down and find some continuity and consistency," was the quote from Brian Callahan on the right tackle part of this yesterday. And it's like, yep, I don't know if it's getting any better there for you, bud. Like, it's going to be right there through the end of the year. And I don't, that's one of the things that's mystifying to me. Like, we can go back and debate whether or not they should have addressed right tackle and how they would have done it in the offseason. Free agency, there wasn't a ton there. Could you have done something in the draft? Maybe so. Like, maybe that's where the answer lies. Beyond that, though, I guess it's amazing to me how either everybody just misevaluated Nicholas Petit-Frere, or he got so much worse in the span of a year that it's led to this at right tackle. Like I said it yesterday, I wasn't the biggest Nicholas Petit-Frere guy heading into all this. This is nowhere near what I expect. Like, he is so much worse than I thought he would be heading into this. And I can't for the life of me figure out how that's happened so quickly.
Right. I agree. I mean, the still Billy, of course, is trying to be like, I told you he's the same guy. No,
He was never this bad.
No, it's not close.
He might be. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. He might be the worst player in the NFL right now. Like, it's really bad.
I mean, his performance last game was, in fact, again, I'm talking too much PFF, but I actually would love to see his PFF grade for this game. Has Glennon tweeted about?
I don't know.
It was bad. No, I mean, look, and I do think that I think there's got to be something to the combination of, again, to me, it was like, whatever, you make a mistake, everybody has a gambling app on their phone, and okay. I mean, you got to know it was dumb, but you could see that situation and be like, okay, someone made a mistake, fine. When he comes out this year and he's doing the fantasy football thing or whatever he's doing, it's like, oh, so you're just unserious.
Yeah.
And then when you see now how he's played and everything, to me, it's more about intangibles than like lacking talent.
He looks so bad.
Yeah. And that's where, again, Bill Callahan, I'm certain, watched every rep that he had done, right, as they're trying to make this decision. So his evaluation had to be the main thing that they went on, right? That's film. So what, the intangibles are the things that you can't account for. I guess my one question I would have is, like, inside the building, did they have these concerns? Again, talking to Petit Frere, I mean, he's a great dude, he's a really nice guy, and he seems like he wants to be a good player and all this stuff. He came right out as a rookie, beat Radens out. I know beating Radens out is not like the greatest achievement in NFL history, but still, he came in, looked pretty good, and he was pretty good for a lot of his rookie year. So how does that get to this?
I don't know.
It has to be intangibles. And again, like, to me, the tone deafness, again, of going back to, of you had this gambling suspension and you're doing this thing in season, that is, it's just hard to then take you seriously and think that you're doing all the things you need to be great at your craft, right?
Yeah.
So I can see, I guess that's a long way of saying, I think I can excuse Bill Callahan to some extent in terms of, you see on film a certain player, you don't know exactly what you're going to get on a daily basis in the building. It can't be good if he's playing like this. I just can't imagine it would be.
No.
How could it be?
But, it's hard, Carthon was here last year. Now, granted, Petit Frere was hurt for the most part last year, so it's hard to get, like, a true read on it. But, like, if it's that bad, like, I'm with you. There's got to be some explanation as to how he's gone from, look, I'm not going to overblow what he did his first year, but he was serviceable at right tackle.
That player would be fine.
He'd be fine right now. And it is so much worse than that right now. Again, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but it's hard to imagine a starting right tackle, and even a backup right tackle playing as bad, as poorly as he's played this year.
I mean, look how quickly they, basically just said, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's go put anybody else out there.
And we know he can't line up on the line, but we're leaving him out there. Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Roy. Roy, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
So, we're talking about the purple jerseys in the stadium. I've been to every game this year. Actually, I've been pretty much every game the last five to 6 years. And, I will say this, that fan base was one of the nicest fan bases I've seen in that stadium. And it's not something that we're not used to, over the years, especially when Peyton Manning was with the coach. Even if we had a winning season, you would see just about, maybe 40, 60% fans, of coach fans there. That's long gone now. But I'll say this, you look at that and like, look at this. I mean, you couldn't hear anything in that stadium without the skull every 5 seconds. And as far as the team getting better, I really hope, maybe I'm just kind of looking into things. I really hope and feel that maybe by the new stadiums open in 2027 or whatever, that they can do something like the Rams did. It's going to take them a few draft classes and maybe some free agents pickups. And there's a lot of teams out there that are in the same position we are, I don't think we're as bad as some of them. And like the Cleveland Browns, I feel like they're going to full reset. Maybe we can reach out to them and get some of those tackles they got. I don't know. Obviously, we all know that offensive line has been our issue the last 3 to 5 years. But I'll hang up, listen, and thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Roy. Appreciate it. We're going to get into the stadium part of this coming up next. It's a lot of reaction to that. Kuharski was on our show yesterday, Joe, and said may have been number one in terms of opposing fan takeover, which if you've been around the Titans for a while, that's saying something because they've had some opposing fan takeovers, and we saw another one on Sunday against Minnesota. So what does it mean? Should Titans fans be mad about it? Should the Titans be embarrassed about it? And how do you fix it moving forward? We'll get into all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Joe, I can confirm. Roy just called in, and we've now had a couple people on the text line. Minnesota fans apparently very nice. Even though they took over the stadium, they were very nice in doing so.
Okay.
That's good to know.
That's good to know. I'm sure there's some jerks in the crowd, just like, if you happen to sit next to a certain fan base, a fan who's just awful, then it doesn't mean the entire fan base is awful. But I'm glad you guys had a good experience. A lot of them were here, so you had plenty of sample size.
There was a lot of them here.
Hey, let me quickly give Trevor sent me Glennon's little tweet on the PFF. So NPF. So Latham 80.8, Skronsky 67.3. This is pass blocking. Radon 64.2. NPF a 60.4. Not terrible.
Put him out there.
Prince 46.8. Brunskill 25.3. So that's again, take these for whatever they're worth. They're not worth a ton.
It's not very good.
I will say this on that point. Offensive linemen, ideally you don't notice them, right?
Yes.
So I will say, there were two plays where it was embarrassing to watch NPF in this game, right? It was holy crap. Now, I have not gone through his entire film.
No.
I'm sure he had plenty of good snaps in this game. He must have, right?
I guess.
It's just that those two things stick out in your mind, right? You're just like, what has gone on with this guy? So, and but that's the same thing as Dillard. It's like Dillard could give you good possessions, but then he would have those
just
2 or 3
blocks,
snaps where please hit my guy here. Let me launch you into him. Here, let me give you a little boost. And so that erases all the good stuff.
Right. I mean, when your bad is that bad, it's hard to overcome that. But good for him. 60 is better PFF grade than I thought.
Sure. There you go.
I didn't know if he was going to be. Do they have negative grades? Thought we might see one.
I don't know.
Good for NPF. Glad he's got.
Do they grade special teams as a unit? I don't know.
Don't have to ask Chris Collinsworth. All right, so there's a ton of Minnesota fans in the building on Sunday. We talked with Koharski about it yesterday. The estimation that goes on, I don't know that anybody's ever dead on in terms of the estimation, but people have said 60% Minnesota fans, 65%. Now we did have somebody text in yesterday and say 95, and I don't think it was 95% Minnesota fans. Yeah. But there are a ton of Minnesota fans in there. Koharski said he's seen a lot of opposing team fan takeovers, and that one may have been at the top of the list. We saw it earlier this year with Green Bay, too. A ton of Packers fans in the building. And I realized entering into this conversation, Joe, that some of this is pretty simple. There were a 2-7 football team heading into the game on Sunday. And when you're a bad football team, a lot of times you see fans that normally might go to a game say, well, do I really want to go watch the Titans play football today and spend all kinds of money to go down there and do it? Or do I want to do something else with my Sunday? I've got tickets. I'll sell them, try to make a little bit of my money back, and it is what it is, and we see that from time to time. And you factor that in, and then you factor in Minnesota was 7-2 heading into the game. They're off to a really good start to their season. They don't come to Nashville very often, and as we know, this is a very popular destination for people to come to. So all of that, I fully realize heading into this is pretty simple, and some of this is just as simple as if you start winning, the opposing fan base will be less and less in your stadium. Now, having said that, there were plenty of examples, Joe, of the Titans being a pretty good football team under Mike Vrabel, and you're looking around, you're saying, good Lord, there's a lot of Buffalo Bills fans in here, or man, there's a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans in here. It's not the first time that this stadium has been overrun by the opposing fan base. So I guess my question is, how much does that bother Titans fans? How much do we think that bothers the Titans brass? And what beyond the obvious of just becoming a better football team can be done to fix this moving forward? Because quite frankly, this happens a lot. This is a very popular place to come to. I get that. But the Titans stadium gets overrun by the opposing fan base quite a bit.
Well, so that last thing you said, I don't think it gets overrun. I mean, I've never seen it more than 50 the other. It sounds like it was overrun Sunday. right?
I mean, it was over 50 for Green Bay for sure. There's no doubt.
Well, this year.
This year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that may be the case. But so this year I have no. I mean, if you're going to give these people this product,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I have no quibbles with Titans fans who don't want to come to this
I
crap.
totally agree.
Got no quibbles. I mean, yeah. Now, so you bring me back to like the Buffalo game, the Monday night game of what was that? Been 21,
I
right?
believe so.
Where I got into it with Jared and Carol, and they're trying to say it was like 50. It was not at even close to 50-50. But it was, I mean, Buffalo fans were definitely in that stadium. I mean, I could buy 25-30%, which is still significant.
They got tables outside too, so it makes it look, they're diving into stuff off the pedestrian bridge. So
yeah, they
make it look a little more
make
extreme.
a big to-do about things. Yeah. I mean, that night, again, being in the stadium, I mean, this brings me back to the screaming, thing with Jared, but it's like, he's like, well, you didn't see the side because you're on the side of the press box. Like, listen, if you're in the stadium when the Titans did something good and the noise is 3 times as loud as the noise when the Bills do something good, does that give you a little bit of an indication or no? So now, is that embarrassing that happened when the Titans that year were the number 1 seed? I guess. Also, like, you have to take which fan base we're talking about into account, and Bills fans are crazy.
They are.
So, I think that some of this is it is a very young fan base by NFL standards. It's a small fan base by NFL standards, and they've had okay success, but it's not like they've had the kind of success that builds a fan base. Why are Steelers and Cowboys fans everywhere? It's because I think, especially in the 70s, they were just the best teams year after year after year, right? Yeah. So you're talking half a century ago when you had this, and you already had like generational fandom going back, but especially the Cowboys were kind of new. That just became this huge phenomenon, and you build it. And for the most part, you have success. And the product of this franchise has been better than some, but it's not. It hasn't been the kind of thing where you load up the bandwagon. You got to sustain something for a while and, get to more than 1 Super Bowl ever.
No, I totally agree with all that. And I think the fan base, the size of it is a big thing too. Like, look, there are a lot more Pittsburgh Steelers fans out there than there are Titans fans. I've been in that building before, and I've looked around when they played the Raiders. And, the Raiders have been a bad football team for 20 years.
Yeah,
but I look around, I'm like, my God, there are a lot of Raiders fans in here. And I will say some of this, and this sounds stupid, but I do think it's true. Sometimes when the opposing uniform is just so starkly a different color, I think you notice it a little bit more. Like when the Bills and the Colts are here, it's like, well, okay, everybody's wearing blue. So I don't know if you notice it all that much.
Yeah.
When it's purple or green, or, you got all these adults, dressing up like Darth Vader with the Raiders and like barking at people, then like you kind of notice it a little bit more. I just like, if you're Amy Adams Strunk and you're in that building on Sunday, do you ever look around and say, good gracious, like there's just a ton of Vikings fans here? And again, I'm with you. Like this year, look, it's hard for me to tell Titans fans what to do with their money anyway. Like it's your money, it's your decision. If you want to sell your tickets, knock yourself out. It doesn't bother me. But like if you're that front office, if you're Amy Adams Strunk looking around, like Sunday had to be like borderline embarrassing for you, right? Like you got an entire opposing fan base taking up, let's go conservative, half your stadium. And most people think it was more than that on Sunday.
Yeah, it sounds like definitely more than. And yeah, I'm sure she did say good gracious. Also, you say good gracious, what have I done?
Right.
I mean, look in the mirror here. So I can never. If you're a Titans fan who thought this was going to be a good season and you paid all that you pay, and you pay the seat license, you pay for the tickets, there's all this other money that you have to pay to go to a game, and this is what you have compared to what you thought it was going to be, I don't blame you one damn bit for selling your tickets to whoever. I just if you have a good team and you're doing that, I get fans getting mad at other fans. I've seen that before. It's like, yeah, but this one, it's like a huge game. This, like I've seen this in college football. It's like a huge game. your team's good. It's like, yeah, but these fans, like, I can make my whole season back.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I get people getting mad at those fans. I understand financially why you do it, but also it's like, but God, this is like a huge game for our team. That's good.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I'm with you. This season, I totally understand it. It's not like an only this season problem though. Like this is a place where the opposing fan base is pretty prevalent a lot in that stadium.
Well, there's one thing that we haven't really gotten into that's a huge part of this. I think we should get into.
We'll get into that coming up next. By the way, Mo on the text line says it looked like a Prince concert out there at Nissan Stadium
Nice.
on Sunday. Good stuff. More of your thoughts on the Vikings fans taking over Nissan Stadium on Sunday. What can be done about this moving forward beyond the obvious of winning football games, which would be great around here at some point. We'll get into more of that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. A lot of Minnesota fans in the building on Sunday for the Titans game against the Vikings at Nissan Stadium. And taking your thoughts on that, how to fix it beyond the obvious of just winning football games, which is a big part of this as they move forward here. Joe, another point that you wanted to make before we went to break there that factors into this as well.
Yeah, we didn't really get into it, but it's always a part of this, and it will be for the foreseeable future. People want to come to Nashville. We've talked about this before, but it's like, you go through your NFL. Some fans are like, well, we'll go to a road game every year. So many of them are like, well, they play in Nashville. Well, that's clearly the choice. Anywhere I go, people I know, talk to people, meet people for the first time, whatever. You mentioned Nashville, and it's just like inevitably it's like, oh my God, we love going there for all the time, or that's the number one place I want to go to. People are enamored with Nashville for tourism purposes. So they are flocking here, and that's just not going to change. So that's a good thing for Nashville. Like someone was like, well, the city wants this to happen. Well, sure, the city wants tourism. I also believe that sometimes these opposing crowds, half of them might live here.
That's the other thing. We had, Texter bring up, the greater Nashville population went from like 650,000 to 2+ million in 10 years. A lot of transplants that have moved here already that are fans of other teams. And I'm sure that's part of it. Like, I'm sure not every Minnesota Vikings fan that was here on Sunday traveled down from Minnesota. I'm sure that at least a decent bit of them live here already.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but the Yankees have kind of overrun the damn place. It used to just be Cardi. Hey, what are you Southerners? And now it's a whole bunch of us, unfortunately. But so like that's always going to be an element to it. And it's going to be in the new stadium too. And I think it's Vanderbilt, and hopefully for them, they're going to stay solid and have good teams that have better home, turnouts from students and things like that. But those fans are, first of all, it's like feel pretty good about getting a win, but also, weekend in Nashville, let's do it. Of course. Yeah. So their stadium gets taken over all the time. So being good will definitely change that to some extent. Again, I'm angered all over again about the Bills thing from 3 years ago. Like Anthony sent me something with the goal line stand when they stopped and that was a home environment, and it was a good turnout from Bills fans. I don't even think they had 30, but people at this station were actually talking 50-50. You guys,
I think I'm going to lean into 50-50.
You guys are out of your
50-50.
freaking minds. Yeah, you're just trying to piss me off. Trying to take Stilly's.
I never do that.
Still Billy's side. He texted me too, but it's something about special teams. But so that's a part of it, and that's always going to be a thing. Someone's on here saying there's a lot of texts, as you might expect about this. Someone on here saying, well, Amy doesn't care because people are in the seats. Yeah, I promise you she cares. Because first of all, some weeks when you play a crappy team, that'll just be empty seats.
Right.
Also, Amy wants to win. She wants to have a good product. She wants to have a great home environment. She's building a new stadium. Not really paying for herself, but that's the NFL. So, no, she's not. She's not she's not that's fine as long as somebody's in the seats.
At least I don't
so.
think
No, that's look, she wants to win.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, otherwise she wouldn't be firing someone every 5 minutes.
Jordan in Nashville says, as a Titans fan, it bothers me a lot that the other team's fans overrun the stadium and always have. That being said, the team hasn't had enough sustained success or won a Super Bowl to create enough diehards or bandwagoners. It might change after a few generations of people choosing the Titans because they're the hometown team. But for now, this is just how it is. Wind and the waves of two-tone blue will come, guaranteed. This is from Jordan in Nashville. I'm totally with you. I don't know that you're ever going to be exclusively 90% Titans fans in the building. I think of Nashville. I think of Vegas is a good example, right? People want to go to Vegas,
and they're bad. So, but they've got, but like you said,
they've got a heck of a fan base. Yeah,
they
got a huge fan base that I guess now extends from Oakland all the way to Vegas, so I get people going with them.
Sure.
But the point being, like, if you're an opposing NFL team and you're looking at your schedule and you're saying, well, you know what, we'd really like to go to a road game. Nashville probably pretty high up on the list. Vegas for sure, pretty high up on the list. So that part of it, I don't think is going to change anytime soon. To me, this has been a problem dating back for a while. Like, I remember there was a huge game in 2008, and it was, the Titans were unbelievably good at that time, and there was a massive showdown between the Titans and the Steelers.
Yeah.
And I was there. It was a great game. Titans won the game. You had Keith Bullock stomping on the terrible towel after. There are a ton of Steeler fans in there, and I get it. It's the Steelers. So some of it is who you're playing. I'm just saying, like, this has been a thing for a while with this franchise where that building has a lot of opposing fans in it.
Right. And then with that, it's just like anything. Like, if you have a bigger high school, you're going to have more good athletes, right? Like, that's why bigger classifications of high schools play a higher level of, like, football, right? Because, like, you're going to have 5 really good athletes as opposed to 1 for a smaller school. Well, when you have a massive fan base and way more people, you're going to have more rich people who will pay, and they will get their way in. And at some point, someone's like, oh, crap. Yeah, this pays for my rest of my season. Yeah, okay, I'll go watch this one on TV. Again, I get other fans getting mad at those people, but I also, like, you have to understand the reality of it, right?
Right.
I mean, so these massive fan bases, they have too many people with money that are going to they're going to get in. Because look, a lot of these tickets also, let's remember, are bought by there are people that big businesses of people who buy tickets and are ticket brokers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a chunk of these of the seats in every single major stadium in American sports. Those tickets are owned by ticket brokers.
Bobby on the text line says, Nashville has been popular for 10 years. The Vikings aren't a big fan base. The reason is the fans who have tickets sold them because they feel betrayed by this owner who fired our best coach and hired this horrible GM. This is from Bobby on the text line. I'm sure there are some people that feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, people are upset with the product right now and the way things are going. So that's absolutely part of it. So, it's that will certainly, it'll get back to, it was a good home. Someone's talking to me on the text line about, like, the Bengals playoff game with a lot of orange. The orange stands out, to your point. If you've got a contrasting color, right?
It makes it look a little worse.
Dude, I was in that stadium that day. Yeah, there were some Cincinnati fans. Again, people are going to, there's some people are going to find their way in. Dude, that was a great home environment. That was not, I don't know what the percentage, but it was, I don't know, 90-10. I mean, it was a great home environment.
Well, and to act like the Titans have never had a good home environment. Like, when they first moved into that stadium, it was unbelievable.
Right.
Like,
it was the talk of the league.
Right.
In 1999. Talk of the league.
Exactly.
It was like, oh, they've got a college football crowd at an NFL stadium. Holy cow.
Well, I guess the question, though, is, like, is it ever getting back to that, right? Like, it's a different time,
Well, the question will be in a new stadium.
Right, exactly.
When you talk, really, you know, and I don't know.
It was pretty stark. Like, even watching it on TV, you could hear, like, when Minnesota would make a play, and you're like, man, that sounds pretty loud out there. Like, usually, even if there's a pretty good number of opposing fans, a lot of times it doesn't really come through on the TV broadcast. It came through on Sunday. They're loud. When Jordan Addison scored that touchdown, I was like, my God, there are a lot of Minnesota fans out there.
Yeah. And also, I don't agree. Someone saying small fan base. I need Still Billy to give me his tier. They're a tier 3 fan base.
Yeah, I think that's what he said yesterday.
Okay. I need to hear the tiers, Stilly. Let's hear the whole tier. I don't think that's a small fan base, is it?
I don't think it's a small fan base, but it's not the Raiders. It's not Pittsburgh. It's not Green Bay. It's definitely not Dallas. It's not. So I would consider those teams.
But see, right. So those teams, you're mentioning teams that have had a lot of success that have a lot of bandwagoners. So different ways to judge fan bases. Let me tell you a fan base that takes a backseat to nobody. The Detroit Lions fans.
That's true.
Take a backseat to no. They are, because they should have all done what I did 25 years ago, and they haven't. It's insane how passionate they are.
Still, he's got Detroit in tier 3 too.
Yeah, so his tiers are stupid. Color me surprised. Jared has a bad take. Give me the full
A
list, Jared.
9-minute
I've
run.
got the full list. Tier
You got
one,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Tier 1, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Philadelphia, San Francisco, the Raiders, Chicago, and Kansas City. That's tier 1. Tier 2, Buffalo, Denver, the Giants, Cleveland, and New England.
What the hell is he talking
Tier
about?
3 is the Lions, the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Vikings, Commanders. Tier 4 is Bengals, Titans, Rams, Colts, Bucks, and Tier 5, Falcons, Texans, Jags, Cardinals, Chargers, and Panthers. There you go. There's the list.
I don't.
The
even,
Lions, tier 3, baby.
I can't. I don't even know what to say to this.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on this. We'll get into those coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. We'll have Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel joining us at 7:30. We'll get into Tennessee's loss to Georgia and how that factors into the college football playoff discussion coming up with him. Scott Hamilton will be with us at 8 o'clock. Cool event coming up this weekend at Bridgestone that he'll be able to tell us more about. So looking forward to that at 8 o'clock. Right now, talking Titans. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Lots of reaction to the Viking fan takeover at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. Here's one more thing I'll say about it, Joe. Right now, when you're not winning football games, it's hard to, number one, it's hard to blame Titans fans. Number two, it's really hard to say anything about it. Like if you're Brian Callahan or anybody else, like Callahan was asked about it either yesterday or Sunday after the game. I can't remember about that. Does it bother you that there were so many of the opposing fans in the building? And his answer was basically like, well, we got to start winning football games, give people a reason to show up. So
Good answer.
I think it's a good answer, the right thing to say. I will say, and I think we've talked about this before, back in Vrabel's heyday when they were good and they were winning games and they were winning divisions, I still detected at times, both from him and from some of the players, like, I don't know if annoyance is the right word, but like some level of like, hey, we need our fans to come out this weekend, need our fans to be in the building, create a nice home environment for us. And I do remember like hearing Vrabel talk about that sometimes and be like, man, I wonder if he is annoyed that there's opposing fans in the stadium, at least the number of which that there are. And it wasn't anything like Sunday. Like, I don't know if I recall a takeover like Sunday really ever, but certainly during like the Vrabel days,
There was never a takeover,
but there was certainly there were games where there was a lot of opposing fans in there. And I do remember Vrabel with some comments sometimes. He never like called out the fan base or anything, but it was like, like to see our fans show up on Sunday. We need them to show up. And I wondered if that was ever like a sore spot for him back in the day.
No, there were definitely some times when, yes, he was careful about how he said it, but he was like, man, we really need, kind of more like going into a game.
Yeah.
He wouldn't really complain about it. At least I don't remember that, but a lot of going into a big game. Like, yeah, we really need, like I'm going back for the text line about this Bengals game. Yeah. If you were there and you think that, someone's like, well, they're way more than 10%. I'm like, okay, 12%. And then sending me this Sporting News story about how the Titans changed their ticket policy that week, so you couldn't transfer until 24 hours before the game. So, yes, I'm sure the Titans were doing all they could to keep Bengals fans out of the game. It worked. That's all I can tell you. That was not out of the ordinary in terms of, like, there's going to be some opposing fans. Guys, I covered the AFC Championship game in Kansas City, 5 years ago? Lots of Titans fans in that.
Yep.
In that blue pops in that stadium. They had big tailgates, and Amy went to the tailgates.
Yeah.
And people.
Amy was the toast of the town that weekend in Kansas City.
If you're a passionate fan of a team and you have the resources, you can get yourself into these stadiums. That's always true. So that's always going to be true. Also on the Amy front here, look, I understand there's a lot of, how could you say Amy cares? And, like the new stadium, it's going to be like the club is basically the lower bowl. And so, guys, yeah, I understand that NFL owners are greedy, okay? And so, like, you can lump them all together. You can lump the entire NFL for its greed and how it takes advantage of fans and how it holds cities hostages. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to argue with you. Yes, Amy Armstrong would like a winning football team. Look at all the stuff she's done. It hasn't helped create that, but it's not because she doesn't care. It's just she's not. She wants to do the job well. She just isn't. I can relate to that, like I want to be good, just suck,
we
it
just have
happens.
to be total trash.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of, of course there's a level of like greed and it's ridiculous what they ask of fans. It really is. And I'll be interested, Robby, in this new stadium. I think it's really cool. It looks awesome. But these new places, like SoFi is taken over all the time, by the way, especially when the Chargers play.
Yeah, for sure.
By opposing fans. these new stadiums are awesome. That's like a total, like they're like a freaking shopping mall / like clubs and bars and all this stuff. But is it a great atmosphere for football? I mean, I don't know.
Well, look, LA is kind of its own thing too, because look, I mean, I've seen San Francisco 49er Rams games in there, and it's like 75% Niner fans in there. Like, LA is kind of its own thing there too. But, we had somebody else bring up, another huge factor is until they finish the new stadium is the parking and getting the games a hassle. I'm sure
No
that doesn't help
question.
this year for sure.
No question.
I mean, this year there's a lot of things that lend itself to not going to watch the Titans, how bad they are being chief among them. You had top tier on our YouTube chat was like, who are Titans fans going to see? Who's the face of the franchise? They don't have one. They need one. That factors in as well. Like, there's a lot.
We can all agree the product's bad.
Like right now, this year, like there's my question is not really so much about this year. I totally understand why something like Sunday happens this year. I guess my question is going to be moving forward. Is this just going to be a thing where you're just going to have to deal with a lot of opposing fans in your building at all times if you're the Titans?
Yeah, I mean, someone here is, you live in a melting pot, you don't live in Boston or Green Bay, you're going to have to get over it. And I think there's some truth to that. It's a great thing to live in a city that has a lot to offer and that people want to come to and spend their money. It is. I mean, it's good. I mean, the traffic front, but for overall, it's good.
Yeah.
But that's just that is going to be a part of this all along. And again, it's still, we're talking Titans fans have been Titans fans. Like, you've had your team. I know that there's some Oilers fans who have continued to follow the franchise, but it's only 25 years that they've been in this stadium. So, it's just, that doesn't compare. Some of these fan bases are closing in on a century.
Yeah.
It's just a very different thing when you have generational fandom passed down. And, by the way, right behind you, I saw the Tier 5 fan base took over that Tier 1 fan base's stadium last night. Huh?
Yeah, how about those Texans
how
fans?
about that?
Yeah.
I'm mostly going to ignore these tiers because they're dumb. I do at some point need to hear how he came up with this. That's mind-boggling.
I would like to hear it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. A couple more thoughts to get to on this. A move that was not made yesterday in the AFC South that kind of surprises me a little bit. And we'll get into Tennessee's loss to Georgia before we're joined by Adam Sparks coming up at 7:30. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. We'll be joined by Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel here in about 12 minutes or so. Looking forward to that conversation with old Sparks. Interesting night for old Sparks the other night after the game where he was asking Josh Heupel some questions, and then Josh Heupel turned the microphone around and pointed it toward the general direction of Adam Sparks.
Yeah. Please, media, make excuses for us. Sparks just laughed.
It's good stuff.
Why are you holding your hands like that?
I'm trying to get a question in here.
Well, then ask the question. No, I'm just saying, like, you look ridiculous.
Damn.
I miss him.
I miss him so much.
I do too. Got it, you know?
I don't think I looked ridiculous by that. I was just like this. Ah! Huh?
Mike, what are you getting after Rexrode for? Speaking of coaches, pretty surprised, and I guess there's still some time here. But look, Jacksonville, they're 2-9. This is a different situation than Brian Callahan. This is year number 3 for Doug Peterson. They're 2-9. They got absolutely obliterated by the Detroit Lions on Sunday. And look, I understand Detroit is pretty much kicking the butt of everybody right now, but they got destroyed by the Lions on Sunday. And I thought for sure yesterday, Joe, that Monday was going to be the day that Doug Peterson was shown the door and was fired as coach of the Jags. It did not happen. I guess there's a chance maybe it could happen today. Sometimes these things happen on Tuesday. Either way, I think whether it's now or at the end of the year, he's going to be gone. I thought, though, we might have seen it after a 52-6 shellacking by the Detroit Lions yesterday, and we did not. So a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that too. Yeah, usually the coach gets to the point of like asked about a play, and he's like, "Well, you idiots wouldn't get it anyway." That's usually like a good sign that the coach is about to be fired.
Well, he was also asked about his job and was basically like, "Yeah, you know, if it happens, it happens." And it's like, well, okay,
yeah,
at least there's some acceptance to it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of who knows. Maybe they're like, actually, Doug, suffer, continue to coach this team. How about that? That's your punishment. Yeah, we're gonna have to pay you either way. So you know what? No, you keep showing up and
you get to coach. Mac
yeah,
Jones.
Coach these guys. Yeah, and put together game plans and work late, and then go on Sunday, get embarrassed like we're getting embarrassed. That's actually not. It's kind of diabolical.
Kind of is. That one's happening at some point, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a lock. Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a lot coming, and we'll see how it works. But if you're paying attention to the reporting around the league, and then Vrabel is right there at the top. Yeah. Vrabel. I mean, I'll be shocked, but I was wrong last year. But I think maybe people stomped on Vrabel a little early in terms of, nobody in this league wants that guy. Yeah, he's going to be a head coach next year. Can't wait to find out where.
I can't either.
It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. I hope that team plays the Titans as soon as possible.
I don't think it's going to be Jacksonville. I could be wrong, but I don't think.
Yeah, he'll be selective. He'll go. I mean, the question to me is, does he want Dallas?
Oh man,
Can
you imagine Vrabel dealing with Jerry Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's like, oh God, here comes this old man again. There's the Vrabel press conference over here, and then Jerry Jones holding his media court.
Maybe Vrabel likes that. Maybe. Like, hey, you take all the. He doesn't like media. Take all these schlubs away from me. It sounds great, Jerry.
Maybe so. Shout out to Doug Peterson.
Yeah,
him and Mike McCarthy like dead men walking right now in the NFL.
Yeah,
so good stuff there.
Who else is gone for sure?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Pierce gone with the Raiders. We'll see. I mean, the jury. I think Sirianni has kind of righted the ship. If you'd asked me a month and a half ago, I'd have probably said him. But they look pretty good right now.
But I'd like do something in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
do something in the playoffs. People are mad at Kyle Shanahan. I'm not suggesting that that's possible. People are mad at him.
They are. I mean, look, we said it coming into the year. Like, this could have been their window this year. They're not going to fire him, but still, I mean, Eberflus, I think, is probably a dead man walking in Chicago. I think.
Probably. It's just amazing, their cycle of people always, not on the same page. But yeah, that's an attractive job. The Eagles would be an attractive job.
What about Stefanski? Is he going to get fired in Cleveland? I mean, I think he's a pretty good coach.
I do too. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I mean, it's obviously a terrible situation, but my guess would be no.
I'll throw another one at you. What about Zach Taylor? Not going very well for the Cincinnati Bengals this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that their own cheapness has cost them a lot. You could, you can take a lot of the blame off him, I would say, but it's possible. Whenever you plummet like that, it's possible.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Jets and the Saints are already open. So,
yeah,
could be a lot of movement
it's
in the coaching world.
It's quite a cycle this time around.
Joe, before we get to Adam Sparks, your thoughts on Tennessee's loss to Georgia on Saturday night?
Well, I thought a lot of it was, to me, a team that is good enough to be in the playoff, playing that game. That Boo Carter punt return early, there's one block on a punter, but also I swear, and I thought so in real time, and when I'm looking on the replay, if he goes full speed just to the outside, he's going to score.
Yep.
And he kind of does a little move, like just outrun him to the boundary. But anyway, that makes it 14-0 if they score a TD there. And I'm not saying Georgia doesn't come back, but Georgia had nothing going. They get the one play where Beck, it's kind of a pinball play, 38-yarder, and all of a sudden he was Peyton freaking Manning the rest of the night.
It was unbelievable.
I mean, so Carson Beck, credit to him, and I think I think that Tennessee got out coached on the defensive side of the ball. I think Georgia had some adjustments and some changes for them, and they obviously burned them with the tight end, and they burned the linebackers in coverage, which is not a strength of this defense. But I was just really – the most disappointing thing to me easily was the lack of pass rush. Against the Georgia offensive line, they gave up 5 sacks to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss barely blitzed in that game.
Yep.
And that's I did not anticipate that. That was a surprising thing. I think offensively, there are limitations, and they're still not obviously. It's like the Titans. It's not quite, but it's like 17 points, and they're not putting all together. They're not going to be great ever. I think Nico's playing well though. I think
he's been good the last 2 weeks. I guess last 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, like compared to how he was playing there for a stretch, including the Arkansas game, I think he's making strides. His receivers are
underwhelming.
Just guys.
Yeah.
And his offensive line, I think that is actually getting a little bit better too. Samson's great. Peyton Lewis, fun to watch. Yeah. I mean, but I think they're good enough. I think it shouldn't matter that much because that should be a game that the committee should watch start to finish. But even like the late touchdown, it's like all these little arguments that are coming with every little thing that you go through. I'd say any point that you can score or not allow is good, and that was really a one-score game.
Right.
But it ends up 31-17.
Interested to see what the rankings look like tonight for the college football playoff.
Yes.
There'll be a lot of hand-wringing the next few weeks.
I mean, it
relates
started
to the balls
already.
and much else.
The screaming is in full go already.
And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on Tennessee's loss to Georgia and what it means for the Vols as it relates to the college football playoff. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Tennessee falls to Georgia on Saturday, their second loss of the season. College football playoff rankings out tonight, so that one's going to be interesting to see where Tennessee ends up at that. To help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel. Adam, good morning. How are you?
Not bad, guys. Looking forward to must-see TV tonight. I think at about 7:13 Eastern tonight, there'll be a lot of Tennessee fans that will see Tennessee ranked like 10th or 11th. For about 3 seconds after that, they'll assume that means they're in the bracket.
Right.
Then they'll realize they're not, and then they'll start tweeting angry things about how the format of the playoff that they were not previously aware of, or that they liked a couple weeks ago when they were going to play like Boise or BYU or somebody like that. But now they're going to have a problem with it. I predict that'll happen about 13 minutes after the hour tonight.
Will that be happening within your own living room?
Wow.
I think it already happened. Joe, you know that Bev, my wife, UT fan, was with us in the press box after the game late the other night, in the stands during the game, obviously. And
She's the best.
Joe, you know that she was ready to jump off the top step of the stadium.
I mean,
it's funny, though, on the drive home from Georgia the next day, she turned on a lot of podcasts of national college football analysts, such as yourself, and heard these things, and suddenly the sun came up, and pass back into the playoff or into the playoffs suddenly opened up. I think there was a lot of Tennessee fans that thought the world had ended and suddenly looked at some of the math and decided maybe it wasn't the end after all.
I mean, Robbie, there's people like trying to work, and I'm like almost yelling, trying to like calm Bev. Like, Bev, you guys can still make the playoff. I'm telling you, you got a chance, Bev.
I think, Joe, on the walk back to the car, I uttered the sentence, but Pat Forty thinks you're in.
I think Bev and I were of similar mind on Saturday night. Similar mind, no doubt. So, Adam, what do you think this does do for Tennessee? I mean, obviously, right now it's a mess in the SEC. You got a lot of teams with 2 losses. You could have more with 2 losses by the end of this thing here. So what do you think with the resume not being totally complete yet? Tennessee still has UTEP and then a big one with Vanderbilt here in town. But assuming they get to 10-2, what do you think this all means for the Vols?
Well, I mean, it's going to be viewed as complete success or complete failure based on if they're in the playoff as the last team in, or in the Rely Quest Bowl in Tampa. And the same record would get you either places. That's going to be the frustrating part. I mean, what we all know, the different games that could decide this: Notre Dame Army, Notre Dame USC, Florida Ole Miss. A lot of weird things with the Texas schools. There's a few games. They need one break. That's the thing that I think Tennessee fans need to understand. There's like 10 things that could happen. Well, Indiana getting blown out obviously would be one of those. There's about 10 things that could happen that would help Tennessee. They need one of those. They don't need 10. They need one of them to happen. And so they may be in the bracket tonight. They may be in there tonight, and that'll calm people down a little bit too. So I don't think the chances are terrible that Tennessee gets in. But they're, if they can beat Vanderbilt, they'll finish 10-2. And whether or not a committee decides they're in or not, well, that'll be it. There's obviously a lot of reasons for frustration, even aside from the Georgia game. But Texas's resume, it's the committee has put Texas so high without a quality win or without a signature win, and it's almost like they can't go back. Like, what do? You drop them to 10 in 1 week because you reviewed the answers on the test from last week. That's just not going to happen. I think something that is frustrating on Tennessee's side is that they're not passing the eye test. Now, they've been great on defense up to this game. Was not good in this game for a number of reasons. but they're not passing the eye test, and they would have passed the eye test in pretty much any other season, and that's on offense. You've heard week after week Ward Manuel say, the offense Tennessee's offense is not coming around. They had a bad first half or bad second half or whatever. Any offense, even really some of the offense from last year, but especially the 2 years before that, if you have something like that on film, the committee members would look at it and say, oh, this is an explosive team that's getting better because of its offense. But it doesn't have that, and I think we've all kind of accepted the fact that it's never going to be that this season. And I think that's the frustrating thing, that what could keep Tennessee out is not passing the eye test in the way that Josh Heupel's offenses used to pass the eye test just by rolling out of bed and scoring 40.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot to this. Obviously, there's a lot of subjectivity, but you hit on the thing that just surprised me so much, Adam, the other night is, the fact that Tennessee could not get to Carson Beck. I think they, the Vols typically are comfortable with a 4-man pass rush, and it usually does plenty for them. Georgia had just been caved in by Ole Miss a week earlier. How do you explain what happened to the Tennessee defense? Carson Beck has that one kind of pinball 38-yard completion, and all of a sudden from there it's like he's the best. He's a Heisman-winning first-round pick against them.
I think there was some stubbornness with Tennessee's coaching staff. If that game happens earlier in the season, Tennessee looks at it and says, okay, our D-line is not getting there rushing 4, rushing 5. We're going to have to bring some pressure, which Tim Banks loves to do. He loves to blitz. But because this game happened so late in the season, so many times they've won this year just rushing 4 or 5. And so they kept telling themselves, well, get to the third quarter, get to the fourth quarter, our defensive line depth will win out. The attrition will win out. And because they had seen it so many times this year, and, they got to the end of the third quarter and said, this hasn't worn down Georgia yet. It hasn't worked yet. And it just never did. And they just would never, I think, accept the fact that they were not going to win it up front that night, and they had to bring pressure. And if they were ever going to decide that, it was too late. It's similar to some games against Georgia, a couple years ago on the offensive side. They did something so well for so long. They just believed that it would work against any opponent. And like a couple years ago, they spread everybody out, and they throw it around Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, and all those. And you spread them out, and you score a bunch of points. And 2 years ago, they couldn't accept the fact that when they would spread Georgia out, Georgia was better one-on-one situations spread out on islands, and they would never accept that and do something different offensively. 2 years ago, they would never accept that they were getting beat defensively this year and change things up. They were just too slow, too stubborn.
So, Adam, a lot of Tennessee fans upset with the officiating in that game. Josh Heupel took the microphone and conducted a very impressive interview with you after the game as well. What did you make of the officiating and Heupel's response in the post-game press conference?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very questionable call, which is how I posed the question. A couple calls on that one drive, especially. The face mask is weird, but also two guys are on a guy or grab at his helmet and the helmet comes off. You can kind of understand why that one was called. The illegal substitution, 12 men on the field, that was weird because it was inconsistent. All season, that's been allowed to. When the offense subs late in the play clock, you can sort of jog it off and force a delay a game or timeout. Suddenly this game, it was inconsistent. And they said, no, we're going to speed it up this game. So that's what Tennessee was mad at. Well, it was called one way all season, then called a different way in that game. Josh Heupel obviously doesn't want to get fined by the SEC. He's done different tactics to get his message across. Last year after the Alabama and Kentucky games, it was the silent protest. You would ask him a question and he would just stand there for 20 seconds and then say next question. So I guess this time, here's the thing, and Joe knows this was a little easier for him to do it this time because he's the road team. He's sitting at a table. He's not at a podium. He's sitting at a table, and I'm literally 3 feet from the table.
Right.
So he could just sort of scoot scoot the mic over and turn it.
He almost grabbed you and gave you a noogie and said, "Tell them they cheated us, Adam."
tell Greg Sankey. Yeah, so that was just the latest thing he did. He didn't double down on it in Monday's press conference for obvious reasons.
Good
It
for
looks
him.
whiny when you lose by 2 scores and you're complaining about officiating. Now I understand it. If that drive doesn't go like it does, the game was tied at that point. So you can understand in the moment, but he's moved on since then. He's not going to win that battle. That's for sure.
No,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. But so if you don't call face mask, they have a 3rd and 8. Well, 3 plays later, they had a 3rd and 9. You're welcome to stop them and get off the field, but you didn't. So, but I get it. I mean, the delay thing was. I agree. That whole thing is weird. The jog off, and they have been inconsistent with that.
Well, Joe, if you remember, that was like the turn the mic over to me thing was like one of like 7 weird things in that press conference. I mean,
yes,
a catering lady's phone playing the Georgia Fight song
over and over
at full blast volume. And immediately I knew as an elderly woman, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but I've been in enough church building auditoriums and hearing something blasting from somebody's phone over and over during a sermon and be like, that's an old lady that doesn't know how to turn her phone off. That was the immediate.
Awesome.
That's immediately what I thought it was. It was. And then one of our local TV guys asking the opening question as a statement to Josh Heupel, I thought was good.
I thought that they really protected well. Yep.
Yep, they absolutely did. And then Jackson Moy, the defensive tackle, who was called on the illegal substitution, coming in and sort of threatening people that aren't there. If you think I'm lazy, not getting off the field, then we can go outside and talk about that, or however it is he said.
So that had to have been Twitter, right?
Yeah, that's a player getting to the locker room, picking up his phone, and seeing a whole lot of notifications by angry, possibly inebriated Tennessee fans, not understanding what the tactic was there.
Yeah, good old Vol Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what can Tennessee do? I mean, look, there's 2 games, and one of them is just just name your score game coming up Saturday. What can they do? Do you think in the next game? Do you feel like they need to try to blow out Vanderbilt? And what do they need to? If there's one thing that they can be better at, what would be the thing?
Yeah, I mean, nothing will happen in the UTEP game would help them. It would only hurt them if it was not a complete blowout. Vandy, yeah, if they could beat Vandy by a large margin, then that could help them. It's really just about winning those games. So much of what's going to happen for Tennessee is going to happen in games that's not involving yet. They just got to have a break, go their way in one of these other games. I mean, I don't know that how much is fixable because Nico is getting better. Nico has gone through the progression of a young quarterback. He was good against bad competition, then got overconfident, and then dialed it back. And after making some bad decisions, dialed it back, became more conservative, protected the ball, and now he's been good. He's been accurate, and he needs to take the next step, but he doesn't have the personnel at wide receiver to sort of get past that where he is now. And that personnel is not going to change this year unless they want to try something with Mike Matthews. And, they played him, but maybe play him more. And maybe that's a chance of doing that this week. I don't know. People in Knoxville really, really want Boo Carter to play wide receiver. I mean, that's a pretty popular opinion in the fan base out here, but you've got a 5-star wide receiver who's not playing in Boo Carter's class. So I think they're going to play that guy before they're going to move your starting defensive back over to offense.
Who's a pretty good defensive back, by the way.
But that's how frustrated people are with not having any dynamic element in the wide receiving core.
Yep, no doubt about it. Adam, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us, and enjoy the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of yelling, I would imagine.
I think so, guys.
Tell Wes to calm down, please. See ya,
Adam
man.
Sparks, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Maybe be a little bit more balanced and a little bit more pass heavy and let Nico cook a little bit. Shame, Will Levis, shame.
I can't help myself if Stillbilly thinks that if Stillbilly thinks
It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I kind of foreshadowed this here going into the break. But first of all, you've told me that Stilly he's attacking me on Twitter.
He
Is
is.
that right?
He thinks your assertion that the Lions having a great fan base, like say the Steelers or the Raiders, is absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I can't count. I mean, again, if we're just going by like most successful franchises that doesn't have bigger bandwagons, then they would not be among those. I will tell you that again. I mean, I judge it by passion compared to like performance. So if you're saying, look at this fan base and they're huge, and basically because this has been a successful franchise that continues to grow random fans. Well, that certainly wouldn't be them. If you want to talk about loyalty through absolute garbage, and still a massive fan base.
That travels pretty well, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'll report back. I'm taking my resident Lions fan to Colts Lions on Sunday in Indy, so I'll report back and let you know how the Tier 3 fan base did in Lucas Oil Stadium. I think that's it. But again, I haven't heard all the goofy criteria for whatever he's doing, so I'm sure it makes total sense. So I'm going to pivot from ripping him to ripping Wes Rucker, a friend of the show. Not really ripping Wes, but ripping Wes.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Now that I just looked him up, wait a minute. Does he have a fake? Oh, yeah. Here we go. We get some fake accounts here. In fact, one that says Res Wucker 247. I need to check that out later.
Talking.
So we love Wes. Okay.
With all due respect.
But like he has gone, and he's not the only one. Ryan Russillo now did this yesterday too. It's like people are just absolutely annihilating Indiana. Like they should not. Like, okay, I got to read this tweet from Wes because it's like, if I can find it. Basically, he is saying that if Indiana, he used the word farce. If Indiana is ranked, it's a farce. If Indiana is ranked, given their strength of schedule, is a farce. So here's what I would say. If you don't lose any games, I think that should matter, right? I understand the strength of schedule, and the Indiana screaming is coming. Now, if they go beat Ohio State, it's over. If they go play a good game at Ohio State, I like their chances to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, their strength of schedule is about to take a big bump here, right?
It is.
So if they go get blown out by Ohio State, well,
be a lot of hand wringing.
And then I think if they don't look like they measure up, then I think you look at that schedule and say, okay, then tell me what they did.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. But like, can we wait until that game? They play Saturday. Can we wait 2 minutes before screaming that they need to fall off the face of the earth? I mean, they're undefeated. Like, I had to do rankings, and it's hard because, teams are – I mean, I was a big champion of BYU, and, now they lose. It's like, well, because BYU had won at SMU. They'd blown out Kansas State. They had done more than most teams in this thing. I'll give you my rankings right now.
Go ahead.
Oregon, Ohio State. Indiana's third for me right now. I have them ahead of Penn State. I mean, Penn State, basically, their best thing is they lost a close game to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Then I got Notre Dame. Then I got Texas. I have Texas. And so I have the top 4 teams are Big Ten teams, which is, I swear I'm not a Big Ten homer. And then you go Notre Dame. And then I've got Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. And really, I mean, basically the only difference between Texas and those teams have better wins than Texas. Texas has 1 loss, and it was to Georgia.
Right.
So how do you split that? You could make the case to put Texas behind all those teams now. At this point, again, they don't have a bad loss. Ole Miss has a bad loss. Tennessee has a bad loss. I don't think Bama at Vanderbilt really is a bad loss. Well, but I mean, compared to, it's not as bad as Arkansas and in Kentucky, right? I mean, Vanderbilt Kentucky's a losing team. Vanderbilt beat them and Ole Miss also lost at home to them. Yeah. That's a worse loss.
Yes, for sure.
Tennessee at Arkansas, it's close, but I mean, Vanderbilt ranks higher than Arkansas right now.
Yes.
So, okay, so fine. You were splitting hairs. There's a lot of things that are going to be figured out. But like, I'm sorry with Indiana, like they do schedule their own non-league, and I think that is a fair thing to talk about. Look, they scheduled their non-league like they're a team that just wants to get to a bowl game because that's what the program is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, look, it's fair to bring it up. I'm also going through these things and comparing Tennessee and Indiana. And I mean, so Indiana's non-league included FIU, 112, Western Illinois, FCS, Charlotte, 120. Okay? Not great. Tennessee, Kent State, 134 out of 134, the worst. NC State, which looked like a good game, they're 72, and then Chattanooga is also an FCS team. By the way,
they got another doozy coming up on
Utah.
Saturday.
And and by the way, we're going to do the whole Big Ten SEC thing. Well, the weak-ass SEC plays 8 conference games. And so now Tennessee gets another garbage game that the Big Ten teams don't get. I mean, you have to take that into account too. When it comes down to it, if Indiana gets their doors blown out by Ohio State, you're going to hear a lot of people saying, like, sorry, but what have they done? And I think it'll be fair. Yeah. And I think it'll be fair. Let's wait till then. Can we wait till then?
We'll have Scott Hamilton. We'll have Scott Hamilton joining the program coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. A very cool event happening in our city at Bridgestone Arena this weekend. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Scott Hamilton to the program. Scott, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Awesome.
So good to be on with you guys. Thanks so much for helping me promote this.
Well, so good to have you on. And this has become an annual tradition in our city, the 8th annual Scott Hamilton and Friends Holiday Spectacular coming up at Bridgestone Arena this Sunday. For people who may be unfamiliar with this, tell us what this event is about and what we can expect coming up on Sunday at Bridgestone.
Well, it's about curing cancer. It's about raising money to support research. We've had 88 research programs in the last 10 years that we've partnered in or have funded individually, and we've had a lot of success. And it's a great way for the city of Nashville to intimately be involved with the future of cancer treatment options through My Cares Foundation. And as far as the event itself, it's really cool because we're the only people in the world that can do this, which is really remarkable. It's even weird to say that, but it's Olympic, world, and national champion skaters coming in from all over North America to perform in this show to live music. And we have Six Wires, our house band, and they're amazing. They're just the best guys ever. And they're going to be performing with CeCe Winans, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Charles Esten, the Isaacs, who are amazing, and Jason Derlatka, the newest member of Journey. He's become a really cool friend. He did his first ever gig sort of with Jonathan and Neil Sean at our event a few years ago, and he's been an embedded member of Journey ever since. And sings like Perry, sings like Donny Hathaway, he's just amazing. So we've got a great group of performers all doing Christmas classics, and we even have an original song being performed by some really cool just next gen faith leaders who've become friends of our family and who wrote a song especially for this event. It'll be performed on that night. So it's music and skating, and we turn Bridgestone Arena into a theater. And it is, if you've never seen skating live before, you cannot believe the speed, power, explosive nature of these elements. And it's just extraordinary, all done to live music. It's kind of sensory overload. It's funny. I say what I just said to people, and they'll come to me after the event and they'll say, "Why didn't you tell me?" That was unbelievable. I go, "Yeah, I did tell you, but you just can't understand it until you experience it." And we've just got an extraordinary cast, and we're just so thrilled to be able to present this to the city of Nashville, and for Nashville to be sort of a beautiful light of hope for people either living with cancer or, just those that have lost to cancer, or those that want to see it done differently. We only fund immunotherapy research, targeted therapy research. In other words, treat the cancer and spare the patient harm. And we've been doing this for the last 10 years, and it's been really cool to see. I mean, CARES has been around longer than that, but it's been really cool to see how this event has been able to fund the next miracle.
Well, Scott, I got to ask you about your skating. How's that? For people who don't know, of course, Scott, 1984 gold medalist, but the backflip, right, was your thing. Are we still backflipping?
There's going to be a lot of backflipping on that night, and there's a tradition in the finale where I sort of, as sort of the sacrificial lamb, lay down on the red line, and I get backflipped over. So cool thing is it creates a fun moment in the show. If there were any unfortunate things to happen, I'm such an optimist. At least I get a free appendectomy, So, life is good. We got a bunch of people strapping knives to their feet and doing amazing, beautiful. And this is the first year that we've dedicated it to, be a holiday show, the music of Christmas and the holidays. We have our overcomers. We call them our overcomers. They're all the Skate to Eliminate Cancer kids that have raised money to perform in the show. And last year they raised over $90,000. I imagine it'll be pretty close to that this year. One of our overcomers is celebrating He wanted to start skating in our skating academy here with the Predators because he went to one of the shows, and so he became a skater. And this year he's crossed the $50,000 raised mark, just him personally, for this event and cancer research. So lots to celebrate, and it's a great way to usher in Christmas, skating and that soundtrack. And we're just excited to bring in as many people as we possibly can to, partner with us to change the world forever and for the better.
Oh, and again, that event's coming up on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. And Scott, this has been a very popular event. What's it meant to you personally to see kind of the response to this over the years since you put this together?
Well, everybody that's come, just loves the event, and they and it touches people in a really cool way. And it's funny how we've sort of collected our partners over the years. And, it's like Matt Eisman from American Ninja Warrior. He came to us 2 years ago. He came back last year, and he's coming back this year to help us host. He lost his father to cancer. And for those who've really lost a dear family member or somebody they just love to this disease, we know this is a solvable problem. We just have to come together and do this together. And Matt Rogers is going to be joining us, the voice of the Titans. He's going to be out there and helping us raise money. So it's just it means a lot to me personally. Having lost my mom to cancer, I became a fundraiser, and then 20 years later, I survived cancer. And understanding it much better as a survivor, now I can step into this world more as an activist. And we are not a silo. We partner with incredible organizations all over the world, basically, and we really do see a day where cancer just becomes a diagnosis that's a treatable disease. We don't have to lose people to cancer anymore. And I see that day in my lifetime, and I'm 66. So, it's like, but we have to come together in events like this and just make it happen. And we're really trying to extend this event out to the community. If people want to come on board, buy a block of tickets at a deep discount to sell to their raise money for their charities. We really want to bless the community with this event as well. So it's really meant to do good all the way around. And there's no better town in the world, no more giving town in this world than Nashville, Tennessee. And it's just such a cool thing that having been a resident for the last 19 years and just so embedded in the community, the more we could do, the better. And it's remarkable that we're able to do this event. And the Predators have been amazing in partnering with us in this event. And we just are so grateful to them and their leadership. And we just hope to keep growing this event year after year.
Well, Scott, you mentioned it, and you are an overcomer multiple times, right? I mean, really. So tell me why immunotherapy, you mentioned earlier, why is that? Tell me why that's personal for you and why that's important to you.
Well, my mom, when she went through her cancer, they threw everything they could at her for 2.5 years, and she had no chance. She was a tough lady, and she was able to survive for those 2.5 years, and then she succumbed because there was nothing for her. My cancer, I had testicular cancer before, it became really cool, because Lance Armstrong and a bunch of other people. But Larry Einhorn in Indiana was a research scientist that turned that from 5% survival rates to 95% survival rates. So I was allowed to survive because of research. And, when my mom died, I became a fundraiser. And then as I said, when I survived, I became more of an activist. And seeing and being around the cancer community and seeing the promise of an immune response to the cancer, like we were all in. I just said, this is where we're putting the stake in the ground. And we did. And 3 years later, the first immunotherapy drug hit the market, and it's basically taking our T cells, reprogramming them to look for a certain protein, which masks the cancer cell from the body's immune system. Right now, our bodies are detecting and destroying broken dead or mutant cells. And so if we can do that for cancer, and I believe we can, our bodies created the cancer, we should be able to teach our bodies how to detect and destroy it. So for me, that's the miracle of, and there's also really incredible targeted drugs that really will only go after that cell and leave the rest of the body alone. to me, chemotherapy is, sort of a placeholder. It was the best we've had up until now. And we just need to keep moving forward in understanding the genome and understanding, just how our bodies work. And even though they've mapped our DNA, that the immune system is much more complicated. But once they get to that, and, with AI and supercomputing and all the research that's being done, if funded properly, I think we can save countless lives. And just coming out of our involvement here in Nashville and around the country with our Skate to Eliminate Cancer events and the support we get from the NHL and from U.S. figure skating, it's really remarkable that we've been able to turn ice into an opportunity. And this event is our signature event. So we're really hoping that people come out. Tickets are reasonable. We really want to be inclusive. I always said as a skater, I don't choose my audience. I want them to choose me, and so, we're just open hand, putting on an event that only we can do. No one else can do this because the nature of Nashville is a music city. And oh my goodness, I've been skating almost 50 years or longer. So, it's just remarkable that we're able to do this. And I'm able to talk so many crazy people into coming here and just sharing their talents in a really unique and powerful way.
No doubt about it. The Scott Hamilton and Friends Holiday Spectacular coming up on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena starting at 5:00. Scott, if people want to get involved, what do they need to do? Where do they go?
Just come to scottcares.org. We're doing a lot of cool things. We have an open hand sort of program called the 1984 Fund. This is the 40th anniversary of my big year. And so we do a 1984 fund where people can sign up and donate $19.84 a month. And they can just join us and be a part of our alliance, the Cancer Alliance for Research, Education, Survivorship. That's what CARES means. And again, we are a very collaborative, very inclusive organization. And we're taking on things that a lot of cancer foundations won't or can't or don't. And so we really feel like it's important that the city of Nashville joins us and we do this together. Danny Thomas said, I'd rather get $1 from 1 million people than $1 million from one person. I'm not that picky. So anybody that wants to partner with us, come on and partner with us. Again, scottcares.org. If they want to get tickets, they can go to Ticketmaster or the Bridgestone Arena box office. And again, we just really want to fill the house and we want to show hope and strength and power in the storm and really just fund the next miracle. We've got so much on our plate right now, and the more the merrier. And it's really fun that we go, for sponsors and for ticket holders of the dinner. We go from the Bridgestone Arena after the 5:00 show. We go over to the Omni, and I'm not sure if there's anything left there, but that's where our bread is buttered, literally. We're able to do some really cool things at that dinner and really be inclusive. And it's remarkable. I'm just so proud of the Nashville community that they've gotten behind us this far. And I'm all about 8. So I believe that year 8 will be a real defining moment for us and that people will come out and support this event. And I'm just really optimistic that with the funds that we raise in our signature event, that we'll be able to really make a huge impact in the cancer community, a continuing impact in the cancer community. And I have to be honest, this has been a tough year, with the election and the nature of, this past election. It's just been remarkable that it's been hard to get on people's radar. And so, I'm just pushing to the finish line, everything attached to the show. And I really hope that people will support us and they'll support themselves in this, because no one to this point is immune to cancer. We're hoping to change that. And so we can only do that with people coming out and supporting us. I wish I could just write a check and make the whole thing happen. But, as a retired male figure skater, it's kind of, I could do a lot of things, but, the main thing we can do is create our own army. And once we create our army large enough and broad enough and wide enough and high enough, we're going to be able to take this thing on in a really cool way and change it forever.
No doubt about that. Well, looking forward to the event coming up on Sunday, Scott. Appreciate so much your time this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
I can't wait. Thank you guys for having me on. I know this is valuable real estate, and I'm really grateful for it. And hopefully we'll see you guys out there. Bring your families. It's
Absolutely.
a great family event. It really is.
Yep, our pleasure. Absolutely.
Sure.
Really
Thanks,
appreciate you
Scott.
taking time
right.
to be with
God
us.
bless you
Scott
guys.
Hamilton,
You too,
our
buddy.
guest here on Robby and Rexrode, the Scott Hamilton and Friends Holiday Spectacular coming up on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. If you need more information on that, reach out to us on our text line. We'll be happy to connect you to that as well. We'll have more on the Titans coming up next. Take more of your thoughts, a lot more of your thoughts to get to on our text line, on Will Levis, on the Vikings fan infiltration of the building on Sunday. A lot more coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Dennis on the text line. Scott Hamilton is awesome. We would agree. Scott Hamilton, very awesome. Appreciate him taking time to be with us here on the program. Right now, taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Daniel to the program. Daniel, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. What's up?
What's up?
Hey, so I know this is kind of late in the discussion, but earlier this morning on my way to work, I was listening to you guys talk about how we have a whole crew of fan bases that like to come to Nashville, watch the Titans games, or, flood our stadium in terrible towels and whatever. So I think a lot of that is, one, we're a military community, so you're going to have fans from everywhere. And two, Nashville is a hot spot. So, for example, my wife and I, we went to the Buffalo Bills game a few years ago when we won Monday Night Football. Josh Allen was stopped at the 1-yard line, so on and so forth. The amount of Bills fans that were there and the amount of people I heard talk about just being in Nashville in general was like, it made more sense. Like, wow, no wonder why we have all these Pittsburgh fans. And, we're not very far from Pittsburgh. We're only 8 hours, So I can see why we get a lot of different fan bases come here. It's Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville's a hot city. And me and my wife, we're always in Nashville. We go to games every year,
Yep. Thanks for the call, Daniel. Appreciate it. I mean, I think he hit on a lot of it there. I mean, we talked about this, not only the people that want to come here, but the people that live here now, right? Like, I mean, there's just a lot of reasons for it. This year, again, the amount of Minnesota fans that were in the building on Sunday, the amount of Green Bay fans that were here earlier in the year. Green Bay a little bit less so because it was, 3 games into the season at that point. But Sunday, I mean, you're a 2-7 football team heading into it. You're a 2-7 football team with not a lot of excitement around it. I understand Titans fans not wanting to go, like not wanting to show up and watch their team play when the winning is just not happening right now. I guess my point and my question is, what's it going to look like moving forward? We all know that eventually you're going to have to win football games if you want your fans to show up on a consistent basis. I get that. Is this going to be something that just lingers with the Titans organization where that stadium, maybe it's not like Sunday, but there's always a healthy contingent of opposing fans in the stadium? Is that going to be what it is for the most part moving forward? And are Titans fans okay with that? Like, does that bother Titans fans? Because we have heard from a few Titans fans today that it does bother an awful lot as they kind of view that.
Yeah, look, I think there's, again, in this league, teams have great years, and everybody has, different tiers of fan bases. Those tier 1 Cowboys fans selling out to the tier 5 Texans fans the other night. But if your team is having a great year, then like those people are going to go to different stadiums and they're going to get in.
Yeah.
They will get in. It's not necessarily because the home fans are selling out. They're buying from ticket brokers. I mean, like, they will get in. So like and again, Nashville is definitely, I think, going to make it more prevalent, and the Titans' smaller and younger fan base, younger as in just in time of existence as a fan base, all those factors are going to make this more of a visiting presence type place than a lot of other places around the league. I don't think that's changing. But again, to me, you go through the good years that they just had and the height of, you 19, 20, 21, when you're talking about division titles and playoff wins and a one AFC championship game run and a number 1 seed another year. I don't think there was ever a problematic scene at that stadium. There were the Bills fans had maybe a quarter of the stadium 50%. One night. Sure, 60, 70. They had maybe a quarter of the stadium one night, and that makes a difference. You can hear them. And there were some other games too where, they were prevalent. I mean, someone on the text line just said, talk about a takeover was the Eagles. That wasn't a takeover. They had a lot of people, but the takeover has to be more than 50%, right? Can we agree on like the terms? It doesn't takeover mean that you have to have more people than the home fans?
I mean, I guess. I mean, look, if you're a road team and you're getting 40% of the stadium, that's a pretty darn big chunk to be in a road stadium.
Yeah, but you're still technically less than 50%.
I mean,
so you haven't taken it over. Right? I mean, it's significant. I don't know, and I don't think the Eagles had that many at all. I'm just saying, yeah, that was one of those where you definitely notice the opposing fans. And like you said earlier, it's like, seriously, the colors of the opposing team, that it matters in this. Like, it's easier to tell sometimes and harder to tell other times. My point, to me, and people can disagree with me if you want, but during that whole stretch when they were good, you know, you noticed them at times, but it was never to me like an embarrassing scene for the Titans.
Right.
That Monday Night Football game when Derrick Henry had the long run, I mean, that place was absolutely up for grabs, which would have been really tough if the Bills had half the fans in the building. That's pretty amazing. Just really, really loud. Maybe they did like Neyland Stadium piping in the noise. The place was amazing atmosphere. And so
you're gonna make Vols fans mad on top of it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just so if you got to be able to live with that to me moving forward. But right now with this product,
yeah.
I mean, this is exactly what the Titans deserve.
I would agree. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Titans coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Tune in to Stillman and Company today from 2 to 6 for your chance to win Jelly Roll tickets for his performance at Bridgestone Arena on Tuesday, November 26th. Jelly Roll tickets contest supplied by Chiba Hut Subs, serving up dank food and chill vibes. Now open in Donaldson. Make sure you check that out later today on Stillman and Company. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Now, by the way, Dennis on the text line bringing up a good point. Says, I see other teams' fan bases pat themselves on the back before taking over downtown Nashville the night before a game. Like local Titans fans are going to hang out downtown. This is from Dennis on the text line.
We own this place.
That is always funny to me.
It's a like, place just for you.
Be like, oh, it's broad. Look at, the Bills fans have taken over Broadway. And it's like, yeah, most Titans fans are avoiding that at all costs.
Right.
The night before the game.
Yeah, it's like this is where we want you to come spend all your money. We'll be elsewhere.
Yes.
It's you and some 19-year-olds with fake IDs and Kid Rock's friends. Yeah. Congrats. Enjoy.
Congrats. Enjoy. Alex says, no one wants to sell their tickets against a good team if they also think their team will be good. People sell their tickets to big games before the year if they think the team's going to be bad, and they'll sell them more. This is from Alex on the text. I mean, look, I would imagine with the home schedule this year, when you saw Green Bay's coming, Minnesota, Minnesota, I think is having a better year than most of us anticipated with Sam Darnold as a starting quarterback, which I'm sure led to some of that on Sunday with the attendance there. But I don't doubt there are some Titans fans that look at the schedule before the season and is like, yeah, there's probably an opportunity for me to make a few bucks for this game here or there.
No, that happens a lot of places. It's like if I sell this to this fan base because there's so much demand, the prices will be, then I'm good. The rest of the year, I'm good. That happens. That happens in a lot of places. So is it is this the whole stupid tier crap? Is it it's because like it's a bit more embarrassing because Minnesota is not some amazing fan? Is that the idea?
I guess.
Tier 3, they took over your stadium.
I guess so.
Tier 3. Minnesota has, I don't know where Minnesota ranks, but they've got a big fan base. They've been there forever.
Yeah.
They're having a good season. I'm sure some of those people live here and some came, but again, Nashville is, I guess I could look at the Minnesota schedule. Where else are they going to go? If they're not going to go to one of the NFC North places, what's you just like Nashville is just a draw. This is a good thing. It's just sometimes a bad thing if your football team's bad.
Yes. And again, this season, it is what it is. Brian Callahan had said this. When you're 2-8, you got to win some games if you want your fans to show up, right? Like, look, we hear from Titans fans every Monday. Hasn't been a whole lot of winning going on this year. And I do think some level of apathy has started to creep in. Now, I don't think it's like panic levels of apathy yet, because quite frankly, a lot of people have gone from angry to apathetic, and now they're looking at the draft and they're like, okay, cool. Well, just go get the new quarterback coming up. So I think that's happened with a lot of people too. But when you're 2-8, a scene like Sunday is to be expected. We've had multiple people ask this question, like, what's worse? Opposing fans filling the stadium or empty seats? Like, what would be worse if you're the Titans at that point? I don't really know what the answer to that is. I guess empty seats, but
yeah, the Titans, they'd rather have people in there buying their beer.
Sure.
So, but there is definitely a
aesthetic.
Yeah, there's just a ghost town feeling of like, wow. It says apathy more if you have an empty stadium, right?
I would agree.
Whereas even if it's all Vikings fans screaming, at least there's noise and people. It's still a party.
It was a popular
right?
stadium
on
Sunday for some people. I do, though, like, we talk about the new stadium coming all the time, right? Like the new stadium's coming. They're trying to sell that. And I think moving forward, like there's going to be, at least temporarily, I know for me, like I'm looking forward to the new stadium from the standpoint of I want to see the new stadium. I want to see what it's like on the inside. I think there are a lot of Titans fans that are curious about that and are going to want to go to that. I think around the league, you see new stadiums open up and people want to go. Like people wanted to go to SoFi when it opened up. Yeah. People want to go. Minnesota, they got a beautiful stadium that they just opened up a few years ago. People wanted to go to that. So I think it's naturally a draw. at least for a little while, and then you got to start winning some football games and being good, and that wears off pretty quickly, I guess is what I'm saying, the newness of it. So you got to have more than that if you're the Titans moving forward into 2027.
Yes. Tommy says, just get ready for that new stadium. With those high prices, we're going to be just like the Raiders. Stadium full of the other team because most can't afford it. We're just a tourist city now. Again, if the product's good, then I think you're going to have a good atmosphere. If the product's bad, then ownership is like, well, at least it's a tourist city. Someone else says thousands of tickets are available to buy through online sales, far from just ticket resellers.
Agreed.
Yeah. Oh, from resale. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, bad teams around the NFL, you can go. Now, I will tell you, you can go look at the secondary market for Lions Colts Sunday. Because Lions fans seriously are like trying to take over every stadium. It's like insane. It's not because Colts fans are so excited about the win over the Jets. The prices are absurd. But most places where, especially like bad teams, the Colts right now have a shred of hope after that win.
Sure.
Bad teams. There's the ticket resellers, and then there's just all kinds of people who are just putting it up there like, hey, I got something better to do. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of money by going. Be on top
no doubt.
of it,
yeah.
Right?
Parking
and the
food.
Parking thing now is another factor here that's a pain in the butt. And if fans come here and they're just going to stay downtown or Uber or whatever, they don't care about that. But
Exactly.
people who live here do.
Yeah. Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Dude, I don't know what world we live in where when you can park for $100, it's pretty good. Like that's where it's at now, man. Like around the stadium, it used to be like $30 as soon as you get off. You could park next to Shoney's and walk it. Now those days are long gone. Here's my thing, and Robby, I think you drilled it, dude. I went from we're kind of snake bit when you see how the first two games went to we have a dumb quarterback to apathetic is the perfect word, where I was just like, I've never cared less about this team in my life. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, he actually looks decent the last couple of games. I saw Deion's kid, who I was all in for Deion's kid, act crazy towards the ball boy. Now I don't want him. And so now I'm back to like, okay, get Levis a tackle and get him Hunter or get him a playmaker and trade back and actually fix the whole team. So that's where I'm at, dude. Like, I'm like, I want to see progression from Levis while we lose football games. That's where I'm at. And so does that mean I haven't sold a couple of games? No, it doesn't, dude. Like, honestly, you gotta figure out a way to make yourself even at the end of the day. And I'm not apologetic for it. I think a lot of Titans fans aren't apologetic for that. If it was something to see, we'd all be there seeing it. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at.
Yep. Thanks for calling, Adam. Appreciate
It's
it.
fair.
Yeah.
And again, when your team's good, a huge game, rival coming in, and you sell out to the rival, the other fans have a right to be mad at you. Other than that, you got nothing to apologize for.
Yep. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Final thoughts on the day for the Titans coming up next. A lot of you weighing in on the text line. We appreciate that. We'll get to more of that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Tomorrow, your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game tomorrow night, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with us tomorrow morning at 8:45. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Adam in Portland getting called out by Kevin in Florida on the text line. Says, Adam in Portland sounds like one of many fans who only like the Titans when they're winning. Not very loyal unless the wins come in. Too much win now mentality or they jump ship. This is from Kevin in Florida on the text line.
Yeah, I'm going to have to side with Adam in Portland. I mean, look, man, Adam in Portland has spent his hard-earned money on the Titans. And so when the product comes in so below hope and expectations, I can't call someone a fair weather fan for like helping themselves financially out of that. Not at all. I mean, it's just, look, it's the whole, I mean, we haven't even talked about the, another part of this, which is just the ridiculousness of going to sporting events now and how geared everything is toward, frankly, rich people. I mean, it's really hard for a lot of people to be able to go to these games, and I know that college and pro teams, they have like family packages and things like that. But I mean, it is very different. And so atmospheres have suffered, and a lot of this stuff happens way more often now. And that's just it's just how it is. And when they get into this new place, it'll be gorgeous. It'll be awesome in some ways. But again, more and more, it's about luxury accommodations for people with ample, extra income that most people don't have.
Well, by the way, like, I don't blame the NFL and the Titans and every other organization building new stadiums. I don't blame them for going that way, because we've talked about the other side of this too. It's not just, the opposing fan base coming in, but like for somebody like me who loves watching the NFL, loves watching football, where I really love doing it? My house. Really like it. And I think a lot of people with the television experience being what it is with the NFL, like, it's a lot more enticing for me to be able to sit at home and be able to go to my bathroom whenever I need to, or go get something out of my refrigerator whenever I need to, rather than stand in line to do all these things and end up paying $25 for an average at best meal. Like, a lot of people love the television product of the NFL. That's why the TV ratings are what they are. Yeah, it's a popular sport. It's also a very TV-friendly sport to watch. So when you're building these new stadiums, you got to have some things that attract people to come there. That's kind of the catch-22 of the whole thing.
Exactly. Right. So if you have a good product, people will be there for sure. And again, people will be there from other fan bases or people just want to check it out. And also a stadium like this, you're going to bring Final Fours, and you're going to bring other things. You're going to bring a Super Bowl and things like that because you have the stadium. So there's value in that, but it's really hard. You have to really give people a reason now to not do what you just said, because the product's great on TV and it's just, and if it's not good in the stadium at the time, then it's an easy choice.
One texter says ownership is more about making money than caring about local fans. Sure, Amy wants to win games, but there was a, quote, Minnesota-style hot dog being sold in the lower bowl on Sunday.
How dare they?
My wife's parents were talking about how good it was when we came down to visit them at halftime. The Titans have actually gotten to the point where they blatantly market to away fans. Not saying I wouldn't do the same thing, but it's sad. This from an unnamed texter on the text line. I was not aware of the Minnesota style hot dog. Don't frankly know what that is, but
what the hell is that?
Would be interested to find out.
An icicle on a bun? I need to know. Come here, Vikings fans. You're going to eat this hot chicken and you're going to like it. It's all you're going to get.
You guys got any Cracker Barrels up there in Minnesota? Got a few down here.
And to be clear, the first sentence, ownership is more about making money than caring about local fans. Yes, we can all agree on that. Like, there's no illusions there, okay? They are absolutely more about that than caring about local fans.
But Amy does want to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we're taking it too far if we're like, she doesn't care. No, she wants to win. mean, there's a lot of benefits to winning. Okay, like
Money's part of that.
Yeah, yes, and also, I mean, look, like she's a public figure who I know pays attention to things that are written and said about her. I know that for sure.
Oh yeah.
So, you don't want to be known as one of the worst owners in this NFL. You probably hate most of the other guys, I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
So, you want to win. She wants to win.
Apparently cream cheese on the Minnesota style hot dog.
What?
I don't know what that means.
We need to spend a show tomorrow on that garbage. Cream cheese on a hot dog?
Which one's worse, cream cheese or ketchup on a hot dog in your mind?
It's close, actually. I might actually pick cream cheese, measuring cheek size.
That does it for us today here on the program. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Chasing Big Joe up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.